Hello BookTube, it's been a while. How are you? Welcome to Spread Book Joy. If you're new to the channel, I'm Jack, and if you're not new, welcome back to Spread Book Joy. It has been an absolute age. I think I posted my last video on 12th of December, as it turns out, according to YouTube. I've been away for a while. You might be able to hear from my voice, but I've basically had the cold from hell that everyone's had, to the point where on the 17th of December, when school finished, completely lost my voice. I'd intended to get to the 17th and enjoy my weekend filming lots of really nice Christmas related videos. There was a Krampus book tag that David from David's Book Reviews had done I wanted to do. There was I wanted to do a Christmas children's book recommendations video, all sorts of things, and yeah, basically completely lost my voice. And what I'd been building up, I'd built up to that because I'd been ill for about a month at that point with the cold from hell. Like I said, it wasn't COVID. I had a PCR test. I had daily lateral flow tests twice daily when I was at school, because I was so paranoid of catching it, because lots of people at school caught COVID. And we were just sort of lurching towards the end of this term and the school holidays. On the 17th, like the 16th, I'd kind of lost my voice in the evening, but I woke up and I could speak a bit on the 17th. So I went into school. I just had to go in. You know, everyone was sick. Everyone's got colds and flus, kids, adults, everybody in the school was ill. We were all staying in our classrooms, trying to keep to ourselves, keeping sort of unofficial bubbles, because you don't have to bubble anymore in a school unless there's a COVID outbreak, and a COVID outbreak is a certain percentage, like schools decide. In our school, I think it's like a certain number of children in the class testing positive, but we had teachers testing positive. We didn't have any one class with a particularly high number. It was just all scattered around the school, so doing our best to try and not catch it so we could spend Christmas with our families, but at the same time trying to keep the school open. And if I hadn't gone in, you know, the adults were dwindling so much, because the ones that had to stay home with COVID, that school could, you know, be forced to close because of lack of staff. So you just have to go in, you just have to do it. And I thought just one day, and then my voice completely went. But I'd been ill for about a month, and the reason I'd been ill is that cold from hell, but also I just hadn't had a chance to rest. I do a lot of part-time roles. I teach for 2 days a week in a school. I tutor children for the 11 plus, and in December, that's when the children take their 11 plus exams to get into grammar and grammar schools and things like that. And I've been tutoring these children for months, and it was the point that they needed the last bit of tutoring, the last push. And then I took on 2 new roles, which were to supervise teaching students at 2 different universities. So those were new roles to me. And one of them, I definitely had too many students for the time that I had available to supervise them in. So I was doing like a good 60-hour week over 7 days, and being ill the whole time. And you know, when my sort of day would finish on a Monday, my day would finish about 9 p.m. Because of tutoring on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So after, you know, supervising university students all day, doing work for that, I'd be tutoring all evening. Basically, it was just non-stop. So I just didn't get well. I just got sicker and sicker. And in the end, I got a really bad sinus infection. And then Christmas, just before Christmas Eve, I managed to get a doctor's appointment on the phone, and the doctor prescribed me antibiotics. So I started feeling better. Now, I don't know if it was the antibiotics or a coincidence or a Christmas miracle, but I am happy about that. But yeah, it's been a time. And this week I've also been reflecting on Spread Book Joy and how it works, and thinking about the fact that when I started this channel and started doing all these things, my Instagram, my website and everything, I wasn't working. I was shielding with my partner, and I'm trying to run it in the same way, and that's not possible. So I've had a really good think about why I'm doing all of this, what I want to get out of it, and what I don't want to get out of it. And yeah, I'm going to carry on with it because I love it, but it's not going to change on the surface for anyone watching or anyone who follows me. But for me, behind the scenes, the way I do things has got to change, because I don't have the same amount of time. But I am getting some time back. So all the crazy work I was doing was sort of finishing off some things while that I'd committed to and taking on some new things, and they kind of overlapped, and some of the things have finished. So in the new year I no longer be working on Saturdays, which is amazing. So I get my Saturdays back to do all my Spread Bookjoy stuff. So everything should calm down somewhat, and I hope, fingers crossed, best laid plans. But yeah, so I'm going to talk about plans for the new year, for my channel and for everything else, and for my personal reading and all sorts of things in a video forthcoming. So this one's just a quick catch up to say I am here, I'm well, I'm back. Thankfully don't have COVID, but yeah, I did feel really ill and I've still got a cough, and you can still kind of hear this cold in my voice. But yeah, I'm back, and want to talk about what I've been reading, because one of the benefits of just having to just stop everything last week was I read so much. I say so much, I read so much more in the last week than I've read in ages, and it was just delightful because it was books that I just fancy reading that, or I just fancy reading that, and so I just picked them up and read them. And you know when you get a day when you just read all day and you finish a book? I did that twice last week. Loved it. So I'm going to talk about my reading. It's been a while, so I want to talk about what I read, and I'm going to talk about a Christmas book haul, and some January kind of reading plans. Anything about my review of 2021, my favourite books of the year, all of that will be coming. But for now, this is just a quick cosy catch up. So let's get started. So last time I spoke, I was just about to start and join a group read of Going Postal, which is one of my top Discworld books now, actually, even more so since I did a reread of it. And it's the first book in the Moist von Lipwig sequence, which is also sometimes known as the, I think, Industrial Revolution sequence. But the Industrial Revolution sequence is 6 books, not all featuring Moist, but Moist features in 3 of them. So this is the first one of his, and I'm going to do a video all around Discworld books. Actually, I did one earlier in the year. It's my most successful video. It's got something like it's over 1,000 views, and it was about where to start with the Discworld. So I'm going to do a more self-indulgent, my favourite Discworld books video, and talk about it in more depth then. So I read Going Postal, and because I read Going Postal, then I really wanted to read Making Money, which was Making Money, and which is the next one about Moist, and Raising Steam, which is the third one about him. And this was, I think, the 40th Discworld book, maybe the 39th. I think it's the penultimate one anyway. But these 3 are excellent. They're all really, really good, and I will talk about them in a Discworld video. Next, I read a American children's classic, Where the Red Fern Grows, which I'd never heard about before, but heard about on AJ Dunn's channel, AJ Dunn Reads and Writes, and it's their favourite book, and they talk about it a fair bit, and I love books with dogs in, and I really enjoyed this one. It's one that it's about a young boy who raises 2 pups, hunting pups, and their relationship with each other, and I just loved it. I just loved some of the description, the language, and it was so beautiful. It's set in the Ozarks in the early part of the 20th century, so very, very poor community, beautifully written. I really enjoyed it, and I read it in a day. It was just wonderful. Now, Kevy from Say Kevy was running a Missing Christie readathon, and I didn't have a chance to read a huge amount of Agatha Christie, but I did manage to read a short story, which I think Alice might have recommended to me, from Alice and Giant Bookshelf, and it was the Witness for the Prosecution. Very short Agatha Christie story, not starring any one of her famous characters, but it was just a story all about a solicitor or barrister who's defending a man accused of murder, and it seems like a very open and shut case, and he's convinced actually that this person is innocent, and so it seems like he's never going to be proven innocent, but so the barrister believes he's innocent and sets out to try and prove that he is, when it seems that all the odds are stacked against him, and it had a nice little twist at the end. So I did really enjoy that. One of the reading goals I set for myself this year that I wanted to do was to read some Octavia E. Butler books. She is a phenomenal and well thought of sci-fi kind of dystopian writer, and I've wanted to read her books for a while. So I've had The Parable of the Sower on my Kindle for a long time, and I finally read it and I ate it up. I absolutely devoured it. If you like dystopian fiction, The Parable of the Sower is fantastic. We follow the character of Lauren Olamina, who is a minister's daughter, and she lives in a gated community it's supposed to be like 2027 or 2026. So these books were written in 1990, in the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, and she lives in this kind of gated community, and society in America seems to be broken down, and things are becoming more and more lawless, and people have set themselves up in kind of walled communities where they protect themselves and their families, and they grow their own food and all sorts of things. And she starts to think about what God is and what that means to her as a minister's daughter, and she starts to think about setting up and founding like her own religion in a sense. So it's a really excellent book. Things do sort of take a turn and they're very dark. It's actually a very dark book, but really prescient kind of writing, because I'm reading the next one currently, The Parable of the Talents. And in The Parable of the Talents, the story continues, and there is an American president. Now, this is written in 1998, don't forget. A candidate for the American presidency who is not condoning violence by particular right-wing groups, but he doesn't condemn it either, and he does these kind of speeches which are kind of encouraging people to be violent and insurrectionist, and basically his slogan is that he wants to make America great again. That's the slogan, and it's said several times throughout the book. And it's almost as if a certain, campaign got into this book and went, oh, that's a great slogan, make America great again. So it's really, really fascinating. She died in 2006, I think, Octavia Butler, and I think her work's been having a bit of a resurgence in recent years, but, very prescient kind of writing. And yeah, if you like dystopian fiction, definitely check her out. Next up, I finally read the next Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I had, which was Daisy Jones and the Six. Now, back in the summer, I read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I really loved it. There was one element in it that I didn't love, but it didn't spoil the book for me, but didn't make it quite a 5-star read. And Daisy Jones and the Six is kind of similar. It's, I say 5-star read, I want to talk about ratings as well. That's another thing I wanted to do, is a ratings and reviews video, because if you haven't been watching Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, you should go over there and check out Scott and Nell's debates about ratings. I'm going to take part in that myself at some point. But yeah, it's not quite a perfect book for me, I would say. So Daisy Jones and the Six, very readable. I sort of devoured it in 24 hours. And it's basically all around the story of, they're like Fleetwood Mac. So if you know the story of Fleetwood Mac, they're kind of like, the relationships were going on in the band, and the band broke up, wrote loads of songs about each other, lots of infighting, etc, etc. And Daisy Jones and the Six is similar. So it's about the rise to fame of a band in the 70s and a singer called Daisy Jones who joins them, and they have a meteoric rise to fame, and then they have one big show where they break up and no one hears from them again until this interview format is taking place. So it's all written in interview format, and a lot of people didn't like that, I've read online, but I really liked it. I enjoyed it. I found it really easy to digest. I did get the Audible as well, so in between reading it I was listening to it. The audio works really well for this because it's like a documentary. So yeah, really enjoyed Daisy Jones and the Six. Good kind of bit of brain candy, but there were some really good lines in it which I highlighted. There was a lot of kind of real sort of feminist messages within Daisy Jones and the Six as well, which I appreciated. I also read this, and I got this for Christmas. This was from my brother, and it is a mashup by Neil Gaiman. It's a graphic novel, a mashup of Sherlock Holmes. So A Study in Scarlet is the Sherlock Holmes book where Watson and Holmes meet for the first time. This is called A Study in Emerald, and it's kind of a mashup of Sherlock Holmes meets H.P. Lovecraft. Very cool, very clever, very funny. I really enjoyed it, and brilliantly illustrated. I was sent this gorgeous picture book all about feelings, a menagerie of feelings, sometimes I feel, which I'm going to do a review of for Spread Book Joy for my website and for Instagram, because it's absolutely stunning. It's all about exploring feelings with young children through animals, so all different types of feelings, and it's beautifully illustrated. And yeah, I just think it's absolutely stunning. And my friend Paula, who is on Instagram as Old Bookish Woman, she sent me this as a Christmas present. I also got June trilogy, the first 3 June books from my brother-in-law. I have read June, the first book. I want to reread it after watching the film, and I do want to read the next 2 books in the series. When I read the first June book, June, I put off reading the next one because it's a hard read. It took me a while. It was hard to get through, so I put off reading the next one. But I think I'm ready for it now, having recently watched the new film, which is amazing, by the way. So yeah, ready to read that again. I also got this. This sounds absolutely amazing. I'm going to read you the inside cover of it. This is from my friend Sally over at Salbo Reads on Instagram. She sent me this, and it's called The Lincoln Highway, and it just sounds amazing. I'm going to read you the blurb. In June 1954, 18-year-old Emmett Watson is driven home to Nebraska by the warden of the juvenile work farm, where he has just served 15 months for the only mistake he's ever made. With his mother long gone, his father recently deceased, and the family farm foreclosed by the bank, Emmett plans to pick up his 8-year-old brother Billy and head to California to start a new life. But when the warden drives off, Emmett discovers that 2 friends from the work farm have been stowed away in the trunk of the warden's car. They have a very different plan for Emmett and Billy's future, one that will take the 4 of them on a fateful journey in the opposite direction, to New York City. Bursting with life, charm, richly imagined settings and unforgettable characters, The Lincoln Highway is an extraordinary journey through 1950s America from the pen of a master storyteller. How amazing does that sound? Last 2 things I want to show you, which I got as gifts. One is a bookish gift, and it is from my brother. And he just sent me this. This isn't a Christmas present. He bought me this a while ago, but because I was working so much, he left it at my mum's for me to pick up. I usually go to my mum's weekly, and because I was working so much, I didn't get to see my parents for a while. But he bought me one of those amazing little things, like dioramas that you put in your bookshelf. It's like a little shop. Do you see? It's like a little shop alleyway. I hope you can see it properly. Yeah, so I love this. And the other thing was that Julie over at the Hungry Bookworm, she sent me some handmade gifts, and basically I keep this by me when I read Julie now. So I've got this lovely crocheted box. It's solid because it's like crocheted into like, I think like a plastic frame, so it's solid and it stands up. And in it she sent me some bookmarks, 3 bookmarks, and she sent me some which I've got under my cup right now, a coaster. And I keep all my other bookmarks in there, my book light, my hand cream, and she's sent me some candy canes which I'm keeping in there for snacking on. So this is perfect, Julie, absolutely perfect for me. Thank you so much. I feel very lucky to have got all of these amazing books for Christmas because, as you may or may not know, I'm on a book buying ban. I hope this video isn't going to be 1,000,000 hours long. If it is 1,000,000 hours long, I may split it into 2 videos, but we'll see. So, but for the moment, I hope you've had a very Merry Christmas. I hope you're well. I hope you're safe. I love to hear from you in the comments. What have you been up to? Did you even notice I was gone? You might not have done. But I'm glad you're here anyway. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing, and hopefully I will see you again here soon. Bye.